Part two of a conversation with Albie Sachs as part of the UCT Alumni Conversation Series. Albie, we could sit talking for 5 hours and barely touch the sides of your extraordinary life, the extraordinary events that you've been involved in. You've already mentioned the sleep deprivation torture. I'm going to sort of compress a little. Because 1988, you had this terrible incident, a bomb exploding as you approach your car in 1988. And you've written extensively, you've spoken extensively about that. You've said that you decided on soft vengeance. You got this letter saying revenge would be taken on your behalf, and no, soft vengeance is what I'm looking for. And I want to go to the TRC and the particular case, Henry van der Westhuizen, who did approach the commission. And when he first, I understand he approached you basically in the street, and you said to him, I'm not going to shake your hand until you've told the truth. And he did go to the TRC, and obviously he did tell the truth, because you did then offer your hand for him to shake. Talk me through that process, meeting him, your thoughts, and whether the right decisions were made and so on. There's a lot of, as you'll know, there's a lot of contestation about the TRC.
Sure. The bomb naturally had a huge impact on my life. Positive impact. Sounds strange, positive impact. It blew away the heaviness, the sadness of the solitary confinement, of getting an exit permit, living in exile. In London, we would have our ANC branches meeting, usually in Labour Party town halls, so we didn't have to pay very much, and not nice soft seats, but clunk, clunk, clunk wooden seats, sometimes broken windows, in our overcoats, and we'd sing the anthem. Comrades, we'd sing the national anthem, and everybody's right arm went up. And my right arm didn't go up. This stupid damn arm just didn't go up. I had a long arm then. I was defeated. I come to Mozambique, and on my second day there, I'm visiting 60,000 people in the Shava Stadium, newly independent republic. And there's some more. And he gives vivas. Viva, oh, poor unity, Putu, long live the people unite from removed. And 60,000 arms go up into there, including my arm. I got my courage back in Mozambique. I learned so much there. Positive and negative. I learned about unity, I learned about culture, I learned about so many positive things rooted in African culture and tradition and so on. But I also learned about the need for pluralism. The one-party state wasn't the way to go. Not through reading books, not through theory, but if there's no space for opposition doesn't disappear, it goes underground, you get war. You get child soldiers, you get brother against brother, country torn apart. And so that's a strange thing. It was in the People's Republic of Mozambique that I became convinced that pluralism, multi-party democracy was the way to go. I loved Samora Machel. I loved Mozambique. I benefited so much. When I'm blown up, it was a public holiday. I don't know what's happening. Bah! Something terrible. I was going to go to the beach, and a voice says in the darkness, Albie, this is Eva Gorido, you're in Maputo Central Hospital. You must face the future with courage. Your arm is in lamentable condition. I said, what happened? And the voice said it was a car bomb. But I fainted into euphoria. That moment every freedom fighter is waiting for. Will they come for me? Will they come today? Will I be strong? Will I get through? They came for me and I survived. And some time passes. I'm lying flat on my back and I'm feeling very light. My eyes are covered. I can't see anything. And I tell myself a joke. It's an old Jewish joke about Haimi Cohen falls off a bus. He gets up and gestures like that. And his friend said, Jaime, I didn't know you were Catholic. What do you mean Catholic? Spectacles, testicles, wallet and watch. I started with testicles. The word went round the ANC camps, and the first thing Comrade Albie did was reach for his balls. And I've tried all my life to be macho, and I had my 15 minutes of fame in order. Wallet, my heart seemed to be okay. Spectacles, my head, if there's brain damage, it's serious. Okay, I've lost an arm. I've only lost an arm. Some people say that's the definition of an optimist. I've only lost an arm. But the fact was, I felt joyous. And it blew away the heaviness that I'd brought with me going into exile. And it gave me a sense of immense confidence that as I got better, my country would get better. Now, it sounds weird, but that was the effect of it. And then the slow recovery, the learning to sit on a commode, to sit up, to stand, to tie a shoelace, to write. And each time it's like, look, Mommy, I can write. Look, Mommy, I can stand. It was like literally a born-again, physical born-again, wonderful, elating experience. And that spirit has stayed with me till this day. That was 88, and now what we're in 22. I have my up moments and down moments, like most people, but generally I felt that buoyancy. Even though lots of things are very negative in our country now, there's a core. There's a core of decency, integrity. It's contained in our Constitution. We fought hard for that Constitution. We battled over the ideas. We battled over the human solidarity that's implicit in it. We battled over the emancipatory vision that it contains. So for me, this is all part and parcel of that same story. It's a very long introduction to meeting Henry.
But a fascinating one.
But it wasn't bumping into him in the street. I'm sitting in my chambers, the phone rings, security hears a man called Henry, says he has an appointment with you. And I said, send him to the security gate, my heart's beating. He'd phoned me to say he had organized the bomb in my car. He's going to the Truth Commission, can he see me before he does that? And I open the door, see this man, he's tall and thin like me, younger than me. And I see in his eyes, so this is the man I tried to kill. And he sees in my eyes, this is the man who tried to kill me. We'd never met. We hadn't fought over love, money, a job. He was on this side, I was on that side. And he was trying to kill me. And we go down to my chambers, and he's striding like a soldier, and I try and slow him down with a judge's ambulation. And we sit down, we talk, and he tells me a good student he was, and university, Potchefstroom, school of, what was then called the Christian Higher Education. And he's bragging about what a good soldier he was. And he's promoted to a senior position in the hit squad, and he expects me to applaud him and say, well done. It was kind of naive, you know. It was weird. But there was an honest engagement with me. And I said eventually, Henry, I have to get on with my work. I stood up, I said, I can't shake your hand, but go to the Truth Commission, tell them what you know, and one day we might meet. And I noticed when we go back, he's not striding now. He's like a defeated soldier in retreat. And I forget about him. About 9 months later, end of year, I'm at a party. It was the Isidingo filmmakers making a film, I was told afterwards, about the only 2 soldiers who went to the Truth Commission. In any event, I'm there with my friend, the band is playing loud music, and I hear a voice that says, Albie. Albie. It's Henry, he's calling me Albie. And we get into a corner away from the music, And he said, and I went to the Truth Commission, I spoke to Bobby and Sue and Farouk, who'd all been in exile with me, who could have also been victims of the bomb. I told them everything I knew, and you said that one day. And I said, Henry, I only got your face to say what you're telling me is the truth. And I put out my hand, I shook his hand. I almost fainted. He went away beaming. But I heard afterwards, he went home and he cried for 2 weeks. I don't know if it's true. I'm not even checking up. I want to believe it's true. And I'd rather not know for sure and keep that thought in my head. It's more important for me. Sending him to jail wouldn't have helped me, wouldn't make my arm grow. I remember saying to myself, lying in the hospital bed, when I received a note, "Don't worry, Comrade Albie, we will avenge you," signed Bobby. And I thought, avenge me? We're going to cut off the arm blind in one eye. Is that the country we want? If we get freedom, if we get democracy, if we get justice for all, that will be my soft vengeance. Roses and lilies will grow out of my arm. And my life afterwards was soft vengeance, coming back, helping to write the Constitution, voting, being on the court, choosing the site of the Old Fort Prison. One of the persons helped to choose that site to build the Constitutional Court. Having an international competition, getting this beautiful building, filling it with wonderful art by contemporary South African artists. For me, that's all soft vengeance. You don't do to them what they've done to you, then you like them. And then nothing's moved forward. You transcend. It's not even forgiving them. Henry never asked me, please forgive me. I'm glad he didn't. It's not for me to forgive. He was on that side. It was part of a system. Getting the vote for everybody, changing the system, getting the new constitution, that's the triumph. That's the victory for me, rather than just sending him to jail. And to the extent that the Truth Commission was part and parcel of a project to transform South Africa politically, if not economically as of yet, but at least politically, that soft vengeance has been triumphant. And the Truth Commission played a huge role in getting acknowledgement, people coming forward to acknowledge what they'd done. Henry came forward to acknowledge. When I think of Peter and Dwand, we've got that beautiful picture of the blue dress in the Constitutional Court, a tribute by the artist Judith Mason to what she called her sister, Peter Dwandwe. It's using art in that sense to represent something of the spirit of respect for those who fought for freedom in the Constitutional Court, but not in a bloody, severe way of now it's our turn, now we're on top, but in an illuminated way, the best of what people are capable of, the aspirations that are in the Constitution, all of that is represented there.
I feel we must talk about South Africa, contemporary South Africa. To what extent have the ideals of the Freedom Charter been implemented in a significant way? To what extent does daily life in South Africa in 2022 reflect the ideals of the Constitution? I think many people choose not to remember what a broken state, financially and morally, the ANC inherited. But I think many would agree that they should have done better than they have. You spoke of that somebody high in the ANC during exile demanding sex in return for getting somebody an education at the Sorbonne, and bad behavior from ANC leaders is kind of par for the course these days. But you indicated that you still feel that this moral communal core at the center of South Africa gives us hope for the future.
Very, very much so, very much so. And it's being tested, and it's being tested in all sorts of ways. It's being tested by people. I have to be careful now, I'm a former judge, these issues are being litigated upon. I don't want to trespass on what's happening in the courts now, but it's being tested by people who, some of whom fought for these very principles, fought hard for those principles, but don't want to abide by the norms and standards that they help to achieve. But it's being tested by people who never liked the idea of equality in this country, and are saying, you see what happens. Some people are fit to rule and other people are unfit to rule. It's being tested by clear weaknesses, moral weaknesses, incapacities from people who've been in positions of authority in all sorts of ways. But I still feel that core of integrity in South Africa. It's this thing I feel when I travel a lot. I've been on 2 overseas trips already this year. I've got another 2 lined up. When I land, I feel a lift. There's something, it's almost an elusive South African quality that is based on our diversity, number one, on the fact that we found a mechanism to at least get the principle of equality established. And the fact that South Africans speak their mind. It's a very open society. We're not a fair society and we're not a safe society, but we're a very open society. And in that sense, there's a lightness of South Africanity, if you like. It's expressed, our biggest growth industry is stand-up comedians. We even export. It says something about the nature of this country, that the quality of our democracy, we can laugh at ourselves. And it's from all different communities. It's not the powerful sniggering at the less well off. It's not the old jokes we used to have about Englishmen, Irishmen, or jokes about Jews or Irish or gay people or women. It's not that kind of humor at all. It's, on the contrary, it's an irreverent, challenging kind of a humor. We've got brilliant journalists uncovering the negative stuff. When I think of the Zondo Commission, I'm crying and I'm jubilant at the same time. I'm crying because these horrible things happen. I'm jubilant because they're not accepted as normal. They're being uncovered. I'm jubilant because we're going to have elections. Not, it used to be, are you serious? One man, one vote? It'll be one man, one vote once, ha, 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 ha. You know, jeering, assuming that only whites know about democracy. We've had 5, 6 general elections, free and fair. And we're going to have elections coming up, and it's assumed if ANC loses, they step down. ANC lost in Johannesburg, it seemed unimaginable, in Pretoria, and then Port Elizabeth. They stepped down. They stepped down. I still remember watching John in the election hall when Jacob Zuma was then the president of South Africa, and the election results for the municipal election results, local government, were being announced. And he said the ANC accepts the decision. It was actually a remarkable moment because...
And this from a man who once said that the ANC would rule until Jesus came.
Well, I don't know if there was an appearance in some of the cities, but the fact is that the ANC stepped down, and it seemed so normal. And for me, in a way, it's fantastic it seems so normal. We take our democracy for granted. It's so well implanted in terms of these institutional processes, the right to vote. And to make it even more remarkable, there were 3 young black women came and stood below him. He was on the platform with posters saying, "Remember Shesi." They were moved away. They weren't beaten up. They weren't tortured. They weren't thrown into 90-day detention. They could protest. So we've got that open society. We know about the negativity because our institutions are there to reveal them and to get accountability and responsibility. We've got very strong civil society, faith communities, workers' organizations, protest groups, community organizations of every kind. We've got sporting bodies and groups. I don't get goosebumps as often as I used to, but every time I see the Springbok rugby team with their big, bulging muscles singing Nkosi Sikeleli, I love it. I often love it more than the game, just to see that. When I see the cricket players kneeling, it might have been hard for some of them. It's just a symbol and a gesture and acceptance of a certain kind of pain that's been around from racism in sport for so long. I just get that feeling a lot of progress is being made. I'm very proud of our courts. Not all the courts, not all the judicial officers all the time, but the top judiciary and the Constitutional Court in particular, a whole new generation, and thoughtful judgments and judgments embedded in that spirit of the Constitution, the things we were fighting for. This is remarkable in any country and especially rich and valuable in South Africa. These are all parts and parcels of that core humanity that kept us together in the struggle days, that got embodied in the very spirit of the Constitution, the text of the Constitution, the way we got that Constitution. It wasn't Mandela speaking to a few capitalists. It was 490 people, Constitutional Assembly, 2 years of argument and debate, sometimes bruising struggles, finally getting that very wonderful text that worked. As a Constitution, it worked. The Constitution hasn't provided sufficient quality housing. It hasn't provided jobs. It hasn't provided quality of education that we want at all. But the Constitution is not self-enforcing. There have been failures of implementation. And for me, the answer then is we have a fallback, and the fallback is in the Constitution. The processes the Constitution gives for renewal, for change, for resolving our disputes. So all of these things give me optimism. I look at UCT itself, and about 3 years ago, my wife Vanessa, September, got a postgraduate degree, and I accompanied her. I felt so proud of UCT at that moment. It had been through the turmoil of the Falls movement. Sometimes you almost sense that UCT was bragging that we had the best Falls movement fighting us better than Wits, that kind of competition, that goes on. But there'd been turmoil. This was graduation day, and it was engineering and science and architecture, all those particular areas. I'd say 2/3 of the audience there were black. The Amageti was speaking with joy to the parents who'd come from all over South Africa. I remember her saying, "And you're up in Limpopo and your daughter went off to university, and at the end of the year she'd come back, and you're so excited she's come back, you think now she's been to university." And she says, "Mama, Papa, I've got another 3 years to go." And you have to wait for another 3 years. And now the 4 years have passed, and she's got her degree. I felt it. I felt the ambience, the warmth. It was still called Jamison Hall. It's now Sadki Batman Hall. These are useful and necessary and appropriate changes. But it's not just a name change. It's the ambience. It's becoming a much more South African university. And it's becoming a South African university producing South African doctors of the highest quality, engineers of the highest quality, lawyers of the highest quality, lawyers who say that Albie Sachs thinks he's a clever judge, but he got it all wrong in this case or that case, with that cheekiness and sharpness and vitality that you want from good lawyers, but also lawyers who are imbued with the spirit of the Constitution. So these are things that give me constant sense of my positivity is not totally dislocated from the reality of the country that we're living in. And that we have the mechanisms, the institutions, and also lots of young people who are very idealistic, very thoughtful, with that South African quality of being able to smile at the quirkiness of life and at themselves. Maybe I'm talking myself into positivity, but I've got the reservoirs of experience and things that I'm seeing and noting at the moment. I even look at now the people who are filming me. I don't know the camera person's background, but I'm sure his parents could never have dreamt of themselves being not the objects of the camera, but being behind the camera. Things have changed, and they've changed dramatically and profoundly and irreversibly. But we need much more change, and we've got to get rid of the corruption, the opportunism, all the negative things that have prevented our country from going forward.
I want to finish by just asking you to reflect a little on your life. And do you know how many honorary doctorates you have?
It's either 26 or 27.
Okay, my research says 27. That's a significant number. Alan Hutchinson published a book in 2012 called Laughing at the Gods, Great Judges and How They Made the Law. And he says about you that your life and career redefine what it means to be a lawyer and a judge in a society that is grappling with the injustices of its past. Recently, you were approached by the Clooneys and asked if you would give your name to what they call the Lifetime Achievement in the Pursuit of Justice Awards, for short, the Albies. And first of all, I'd like you to tell me about that meeting where you were surprised by George and Amal Clooney walking into the room. And then just reflect on your life and the contribution that you feel you made. I know that you're an extremely modest man, so I expect you to underplay your achievements, but...
It's not uncomplicated. It's a huge irony and a paradox that you're in the struggle, you're with the people, you don't single yourself out. The strength came from that solidarity, that Ubuntu writ large, if you like. And now I'm being patted on the back and praised and held up as an example for those qualities, if you like. It's immensely paradoxical. Meeting the Clooneys was a total surprise and a total fun surprise. I'd become friendly with Sonia Sotomayor, the first Latina judge on the US Supreme Court. And she had invited me to come to New York University to be in conversation with her. And then she said she's going out with a former law clerk of hers and her husband for dinner, but would my wife Vanessa and I like to come for coffee afterwards? And we said fine, and we came for coffee afterwards. And Sonia comes back, the door opens, she comes in, hello, 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 meet my former law clerk, Amal Clooney, and her husband, George.
And you were more pleased about meeting Amal than you were about George, I'm told.
Equally.
Okay.
equally. It was a total surprise. And we just hit it off. And then, see you, must keep in touch sort of thing. Amal is a very distinguished barrister in London. And she belongs to a kind of alternative set of chambers that don't belong to the Inns of Court with all the dinners and so on. And they take on immigration cases and asylum cases and dismissal cases and the kind of often not well-paid areas of vulnerable people claiming their rights. And she happens to be of very forceful appearance, very well turned out, full of laughter and fun, and not a dour, dull, legal type who can only speak about law and only lights up when you're discussing legal matters. You know, she's a person of the world. And George was very engaging. And joining in the conversation, and it wasn't like he's there with a trophy wife. George was George, a strong personality with strong ideas of his own, and so it was very lovely. Amal gets in touch with me in a series of emails. Can I be available, organisation she's setting up, to go to trials in other countries, like we used to have lawyers coming to South Africa during the apartheid days to attend trials. I said, I'd love to, but I'm so busy, I can't. Can I attend a conference on freedom of speech? One of the main participants was going to be somebody called Maria Russo, a Filipina, and I met her there, and she's like Amal, sparky and energetic and not speaking with the sonorous tones, you know, of a lawyer or a world-weary, wise journalist, chatting away, sparky. I met. Then a very tentative, very gentle letter. They're planning to issue awards for lifetime achievements for justice. Would I mind being the first recipient, and would I mind if it's called the Albie Sachs Justice Award? So I hesitated, but for a half of a quarter of a third of a nanosecond. But there was a hesitation in the sense that part of me doesn't like the idea of singling out individuals for awards in the sphere of justice. It's always teamwork, and you do it because that's what you believe in. That's what you want. You do it with others. And in that sense, it's a little bit of a contradiction of the justice you want to pat one particular person on the back. But that's the world we're living in now. And the Clooneys are remarkable people and likable people and have a good, strong, positive energy. And they're using us and the awards to highlight injustices in the world, but also to highlight people of courage, to underline the importance of courage. Not a wild courage, it's a focused, directed courage that produces results that are meaningful. So I'm glad and happy to be part of that project. So I said, okay. The last in the series of communications was George thinks that to call it the Albie Sachs Achievement Award for Justice is too clumsy. Can we just call it the Albies? And George has done a drawing, and the drawing shows a figure with one long arm, one short arm. It's a very lovely figure. I didn't know he was good at drawing. And I liked that. I was amused by that, and a little bit overwhelmed by that. The quainter side of me was amused at all the Albies. It's only a South African, Albert in other countries will be Bert or Al.
Mm-hmm.
In South Africa, Alberts are Albie Morkel, Albie Low. So they're getting the honor together with me, if you like, the Albies.
So then to pick up on that, saluting men of courage, is that the way, you look in the mirror, do you see Albie Sachs, man of courage, a man who has lived the philosophy of soft vengeance all his life?
Okay, first, I'm politically super 1,000,000,000,000,000% correct. I wouldn't say man of courage. I'd say the person of courage. I was a person of courage. I'm proud of that. I wasn't singularly so. I think of Ibi Ibrahim, who withstood torture and never broke, way beyond anything that I went through. I think of the tragic ends of Griffiths Kange and his wife Victoria, assassinated, their last moments being killed, lawyers. I think of Bram Fischer, beautiful man with a lovely spirit and thoughtful and brave, and going underground, knowing he's going to be captured and going to prison, and they made him wash out the toilets, and dignity and courage, and he died. He was taken out, dying of cancer, and then his body was cremated and the ashes thrown to the wind. I could go on, with lawyers whose courage has been tested beyond mine. So it's not modesty on my part. It's historical accuracy. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it wholeheartedly. We spent time filming for the presentation, and I get very involved. I'm telling the directors, making all sorts of proposals, suggestions, and so on. We want to do it well. There's going to be the ceremony, and George's idea is to get a section of the cultural elite behind the Justice Project at a world level. And so they're selling tables for $250,000 a table of 10. Phew, $250,000, not rand, dollars, $250,000. But the idea is not just to raise a lot of money. The idea is to make it an elite special occasion. So I know Julia Roberts will be there, Meryl Streep will be there, Bruce Springsteen. A lot of people, it shows how out of touch I am, whose names I should know. They're obviously a younger generation, will be there. And Vanessa and I, we're going to come in there proudly. And I'm going to wear a Mandela shirt, and Vanessa's getting a design from Marianne Fassler. We want to look good. I hope I speak well, and I hope that...
Do fix your hat.
I won't wear my hat there. Well, that's become something like my signature. And to have fun. If you're going to go, you're going to do it wholeheartedly, enjoy yourself, let people feel the pride. I feel pride for my court. I feel pride for the lawyers who fought for justice in South Africa. I feel pride for the generations who struggled, in particular, using the law to trip up apartheid where possible, using the law to maintain the things we were struggling for. So in that sense, it's a continuation of my life. And if it means that Albie the iconoclast becomes Albie the icon, so be it.
Thank you. That's a wonderful line. Albie the iconoclast becomes Albie the icon. And that is an extremely abbreviated version of an extraordinary life, a truly extraordinary life. And there are others within the UCT community who also have lived lives that are, in their own way, extraordinary. And there is UCT Alumni Connect, where you can make suggestions, where you can connect with people that you might have been at university with. So follow them via their social pages and go to the website and see what contribution you can make. Thank you.